Beloved ones, the tragedy is not that humanity suffers. Suffering itself can become doorway, can become awakening, can become fire through which consciousness is purified. The real tragedy is that people remain trapped at the surface of themselves for entire lifetimes without ever discovering the depth available within them, without ever realizing that beneath the restless mind there exists a dimension untouched by fear, untouched by ambition, untouched by social identity. And because this deeper dimension remains undiscovered, humanity lives in almost constant psychological insecurity, clinging desperately to temporary things while secretly knowing everything temporary must eventually disappear. People cling to youth while the body ages continuously. They cling to relationships while knowing all relationships are vulnerable to change. They cling to money, status, beauty, knowledge, reputation, ideology. Yet deep down, anxiety remains because consciousness intuitively understands that nothing external can provide permanent stability. And beloved ones, this unconscious insecurity creates enormous restlessness because the ego continuously searches for certainty where certainty cannot exist. The world changes every moment. Bodies change every moment. Emotions change every moment. Society changes every moment. Even the personality changes continuously according to circumstance. Yet, underneath all this movement, humanity longs for something eternal, something real, something that cannot be destroyed by time. This longing itself is spiritual. It is the soul calling consciousness back toward its own source. Have you noticed how the mind lives almost entirely through identification? A thought appears and immediately the person says, "This is me." An emotion arises and immediately identity becomes attached to it. Fear comes and the person says, "I am afraid." Sadness appears and the person says, "I am sad." But beloved ones, meditation reveals a tremendously important truth. Thoughts are objects within awareness. Emotions are objects within awareness. Sensations are objects within awareness. And that which can be observed cannot be the observer itself. The witness remains separate. Clouds move across the sky, but the sky itself is not the clouds. A movie appears upon the screen, but the screen remains untouched by the drama projected onto it. Consciousness itself functions similarly. Anger may arise, yet something within you remains capable of observing anger. Fear may appear, yet something remains aware of fear. Even confusion can be observed, and the very possibility of observation proves that awareness itself adjusts beyond the movement being observed. This discovery changes everything, because now identity begins shifting away from the unstable surface of consciousness toward the silent center beneath it. Beloved ones, modern humanity fears this shift because the ego survives through identification continuously. The ego says, my thoughts define me, my history defines me, my success defines me, my suffering defines me. Without these identifications, the ego begins feeling uncertain, almost transparent. This is why people cling even to painful identities. A person may remain attached to old wounds for decades because suffering has become familiar. Another remains attached to victimhood because victimhood creates psychological identity. Another clings to ambition because without ambition, emptiness begins surfacing. Humanity fears emptiness tremendously because people have been taught to fill every inner space immediately with activity, entertainment, conversation, stimulation, achievement. But beloved ones, the emptiness encountered in meditation is not deadness. It is openness. It is spaciousness. It is the clearing within consciousness where the soul begins revealing itself slowly. And this is why meditation initially feels difficult for so many people. The moment external distraction weakens, the mind begins releasing all the suppressed noise hidden underneath ordinary activity. Thoughts race, memories surface, anxiety appears, desires intensify, restlessness increases. Many people assume meditation is failing precisely at the moment it is beginning to work, because for the first time they are seeing clearly what has always been happening unconsciously within them. The noise was always there. Daily distractions simply prevented awareness of it. Meditation functions like still water, reflecting everything hidden beneath the surface. And beloved ones, this stage requires tremendous patience because the ego immediately wants results. It says, how long until silence arrives? How long until peace arrives? How long until enlightenment arrives? But these questions themselves belong to the restless mind. The soul cannot be reached through impatience, because impatience belongs to psychological time, while awareness exists only in the present. Look deeply into nature and you will understand meditation more easily. A lake becomes clear not through force but through stillness. If the water is constantly disturbed, clarity becomes impossible. Humanity has disturbed consciousness continuously through endless mental activity, endless comparison, endless stimulation, endless ambition. Therefore, inner clarity remains hidden. Meditation simply allows the dust to settle naturally. You do not create awareness, you uncover it. You do not manufacture peace, you stop disturbing the peace already present underneath the disturbance. This is why awakened beings often appear tremendously relaxed. Their peace is not performance. It is not discipline maintained artificially. It is the natural silence that appears when inner conflict dissolves. Beloved ones, soul consciousness also transforms the relationship with fear completely. Because fear survives through identification with form. The ego fears death because the ego itself is temporary structure. It fears rejection because identity depends upon social validation. It fears uncertainty because personality depends upon psychological continuity. But the deeper consciousness, discovered through meditation, begins realizing something extraordinary. Awareness itself has always been untouched by the changing forms passing through it. Childhood disappeared, yet awareness remained. Countless emotions appeared and vanished, yet awareness remained. Thoughts changed continuously, yet awareness remained. Even the body transformed over decades, yet the witness remained strangely constant beneath all change. This realization does not become intellectual philosophy for the meditator. It becomes direct experience. Then a new quality enters life: trust. Not blind belief, but existential trust born from direct contact with the deeper center of being. Humanity suffers tremendously because people try to solve existential problems psychologically. Loneliness is treated through distraction. Anxiety is treated through achievement. Emptiness is treated through consumption. But beloved ones, the soul cannot be nourished by external accumulation. The deeper hunger within human beings is for consciousness itself. This is why even successful people often remain inwardly dissatisfied. They achieve everything society promised would create fulfillment, yet something remains incomplete because outer success cannot replace inner awakening. A person may possess wealth yet remain spiritually poor. Another may possess knowledge yet remain disconnected from silence. Another may gain admiration yet secretly feel empty. Why? because the soul longs not for possession but for presence. Meditation slowly restores this presence. And the more deeply consciousness enters presence, the more beautiful ordinary existence becomes. This is one of the paradoxes of awakening. The ego seeks extraordinary experiences continuously because ordinary life feels insufficient to the restless mind. But awareness rediscovers sacredness within simple existence itself. A conscious breath becomes profound. Watching sunlight move across a wall becomes beautiful. Listening to rain becomes meditation. Walking silently becomes enough. The awakened person does not require constant stimulation because awareness itself brings richness to experience. The ego is bored because it is disconnected from the present moment. The soul is never bored because existence itself is infinitely alive when perceived consciously. Beloved ones, another tremendous transformation occurs through soul consciousness. The fear of aloneness begins disappearing. Humanity avoids solitude because people mistake solitude for loneliness. Loneliness is absence of connection with oneself. Solitude is fullness of connection with oneself. The unconscious person feels lonely when alone because without distraction, hidden emptiness surfaces. But the meditator begins discovering companionship within awareness itself. Silence no longer feels threatening. Silence becomes nourishing. Then relationships also change completely. Because now the person no longer approaches others from inner neediness. He no longer says unconsciously, complete me, distract me from myself, save me from emptiness. Instead, love begins flowing from fullness rather than lack. And beloved ones, only such love is truly free, because it is not based upon psychological dependency. Have you observed how humanity fears death continuously, yet avoids understanding life deeply? People speak about immortality, religion, heaven, reincarnation, but rarely investigate the consciousness experiencing these questions directly. Meditation becomes the true inquiry into death because meditation reveals that everything falls within identity is continuously dying already. Thoughts disappear moment to moment. Emotions disappear moment to moment. Moods vanish. Desires vanish. Memories fade. Identity itself shifts constantly. Yet awareness remains. The meditator begins understanding death not intellectually, but existentially. He sees that life itself is continuous transformation. then fear softens because attachment to fixed identity softens. Beloved ones, soul consciousness is not escape from life. This misunderstanding has created enormous confusion throughout history. Meditation does not make a person less alive. It makes him more alive. Because now energy is no longer wasted in endless psychological conflict. The unconscious mind lives divided against itself continuously, fighting fear, suppressing desire, protecting image, seeking validation, resisting reality. This consumes enormous vitality. But when awareness deepens, inner division weakens, then energy returns naturally. Creativity deepens, sensitivity deepens, love deepens. The awakened person participates in life more fully, not less fully, because now he is present rather than mechanical. And slowly, beloved ones, the meditator discovers perhaps the greatest secret of all. The soul was never absent, only attention was absent. Consciousness was always present beneath the noise, beneath the ambition, beneath the suffering, beneath the identity. Meditation simply removes the layers of unconsciousness, preventing recognition. Then life begins feeling tremendously intimate because separation itself weakens. The trees no longer appear separate from existence. The sky no longer appears separate from existence. Other human beings no longer appear completely separate. A silent connectedness becomes visible everywhere because awareness itself is not isolated. The ego creates isolation through identification. The soul experiences unity through presence. Then compassion arises naturally, not as morality, not as religious duty. Compassion becomes spontaneous. Because the meditator begins seeing himself within all beings. Another person's suffering no longer feels abstract. Another person's fear no longer feels foreign. Awareness recognizes awareness everywhere. Then violence becomes impossible inwardly because separation itself has weakened. This is why awakened beings carry such gentleness. Their gentleness is not cultivated performance. It arises naturally from direct perception of interconnectedness. Beloved ones, one day, through deep meditation, something extraordinary happens. You stop seeking the soul as object completely because you realize the seeker itself was the soul all along. The witness watching thoughts was already consciousness itself. The silent awareness observing the mind was already the truth being searched for. Then seeking relaxes, ambition relaxes, even spiritual striving relaxes. A tremendous simplicity enters life, because now you understand that awakening is not becoming something new. Awakening is remembering what has always been present underneath the noise. Then meditation is no longer technique. It becomes way of being. Walking becomes meditation. Breathing becomes meditation. Listening becomes meditation. Living becomes meditation. Because awareness now flows continuously beneath all activity. Then the soul is no longer concept. It becomes direct experience. A silent flame within consciousness, untouched by fear, untouched by time, untouched by the endless movement of the mind. And beloved ones, once this conscious soul begins awakening fully, life changes from struggle into wonder. You no longer live only at the surface. You begin living from depth. You no longer chase identity desperately. You rest in awareness. You no longer fear silence. You become silence. Then existence itself begins feeling sacred, because now you are finally present enough to experience it directly. Not through thoughts, not through memory, not through conditioning, but through pure consciousness itself. And in that consciousness, beloved ones, there is immense peace. Not manufactured peace, not forced peace, but the natural stillness of the soul, finally remembering its own eternal presence beneath all things. Beloved ones, humanity has become so addicted to effort that people cannot even imagine peace without struggle, cannot imagine silence without discipline, cannot imagine transformation without force. And this is why meditation is so deeply misunderstood, because the mind immediately turns meditation into another ambition, another achievement, another project for the ego to accomplish. And then naturally frustration follows, because the ego can succeed in many things within the world, but it cannot conquer awareness itself. It cannot force awakening. It cannot manufacture inner silence through violence against the mind. And yet, millions of people sit to meditate, carrying exactly this hidden aggression within them, secretly hoping to dominate thoughts, eliminate emotion, suppress restlessness, and become spiritually superior through control. But beloved ones, meditation begins only when this whole struggle starts dissolving. Because meditation is not the effort to become peaceful. Meditation is the understanding of what destroys peace continuously. Look carefully at the structure of the human mind, and you will notice something tremendously important. The mind survives through movement. It continuously moves between past and future, memory and imagination, fear and desire, regret and anticipation, because stillness threatens the ego completely. The ego exists only through psychological activity. It needs problems to solve, identities to maintain, conflicts to continue, ambitions to pursue. Therefore, when a person first sits silently without distraction, the mind becomes louder than ever before, because now its movement is finally being observed consciously. Thoughts race, emotions intensify, impatience appears, boredom appears, anxiety appears, and people immediately think something is wrong. They say, meditation is not working. My mind is too noisy. But beloved ones, the noise was always there. You were simply too distracted to notice it before. Meditation does not create chaos. Meditation reveals the chaos already operating unconsciously beneath ordinary activity. And this revelation, though uncomfortable initially, is tremendously sacred, because only what becomes conscious can transform. Humanity has been trained to escape inwardly. From childhood, people are conditioned to remain occupied continuously, because society fears silent human beings. A silent person becomes difficult to manipulate, because he begins discovering fulfillment within himself rather than through external systems. Therefore, the whole culture encourages distraction, endless entertainment, endless stimulation, endless ambition, endless comparison. The child quickly learns that stillness is unproductive, silence is strange, inwardness is dangerous. He is praised for achievement, praised for performance, praised for becoming useful within society. But almost nobody teaches him how to simply sit beneath a tree and watch existence quietly. Almost nobody teaches him how to observe thoughts without becoming enslaved by it. Almost nobody teaches him how to encounter his own being directly. And because of this, modern humanity has become spiritually homeless. People know how to consume information endlessly, yet they do not know how to remain alone with themselves peacefully, even for a few moments. Have you noticed, beloved ones, how immediately the unconscious mind seeks escape whenever silence appears? A person sits quietly, and within seconds the hand reaches automatically toward the phone, toward conversation, toward music, toward some stimulation. Why? Because the moment external noise weakens, internal noise surfaces. Loneliness appears. Fear appears. Emptiness appears. Restlessness appears. Humanity is not afraid of silence itself. Humanity is afraid of what silence reveals. But beloved ones, this revelation is healing. Meditation is not meant to help you avoid yourself more efficiently. Meditation is meant to help you encounter yourself completely. And naturally this requires courage, because for years the unconscious mind has hidden pain underneath activity. Repressed emotions remain buried beneath ambition. Hidden insecurity remains buried beneath personality. Old wounds remain buried beneath social performance. The meditator begins uncovering all this slowly, not to suffer unnecessarily, but to become free. And beloved ones, understand this deeply. Awareness itself heals. Not analysis endlessly, not repression endlessly. Pure awareness heals, because awareness brings light into darkness. Imagine entering a dark room carrying a candle. You do not fight darkness directly. You do not attack it. You simply bring light, and darkness disappears naturally, because darkness had no independent existence. It was only absence of illumination. In the same way, unconscious patterns dissolve when observed clearly enough. Anger loses unconscious power when watched silently. Fear loses domination when witnessed without resistance. Desire loses compulsiveness when awareness enters it fully. This is why meditation transforms consciousness without violence. It is not self-control, it is self-understanding. The ego cannot understand this, because the ego worships effort continuously. The ego believes everything valuable must be conquered through struggle. It says, work harder, control more, discipline yourself more aggressively. But beloved ones, the soul does not flower through aggression. The flower blooms through openness, through nourishment, through space. In the same way, consciousness flowers through relaxed awareness. The more you fight the mind, the stronger the mind appears. Because resistance itself feeds psychological conflict. Humanity has become trapped in endless inner warfare. One part of the mind condemns another part continuously. One desire attacks another desire. One identity fears another identity. This division creates enormous exhaustion, because maintaining psychological conflict consumes tremendous energy. Meditation ends this war slowly, not by choosing sides, but by witnessing the entire mechanism without identification. Look at the sky, beloved ones. Clouds move across it continuously. Some clouds are dark, some light, some stormy, some beautiful. Yet the sky itself remains untouched. Consciousness functions similarly. Thoughts are clouds, emotions are clouds, desires are clouds. They appear, move, disappear. But awareness itself remains vast beneath them all. Humanity suffers because people identify with the clouds instead of remembering the sky. One fearful thought appears, and immediately identity becomes attached to fear. One angry emotion appears, and immediately the person says, "I am angry." But meditation reveals that anger is simply movement within consciousness. Fear is movement within consciousness. Sadness is movement within consciousness. The witness remains separate, and beloved ones, this separation is freedom. Soul consciousness begins emerging the moment this witnessing deepens, not as belief, not as philosophy, but as direct experience. The meditator begins realizing, I am not every thought passing through my mind. I am not every emotion arising within my nervous system. I am the awareness within which these things appear. This realization is revolutionary because now identity shifts away from unstable psychological movement towards silent presence itself. Then life changes completely. Thoughts may continue, emotions may continue, challenges may continue, but inwardly there is spaciousness now, a center of stillness, untouched by the movement at the surface. Beloved ones, the unconscious person lives mechanically because he reacts automatically according to conditioning. Somebody insults him and anger explodes immediately. Somebody praises him and pride appears immediately. Desire arises and he obeys unconsciously. Fear appears and he retreats unconsciously. There is no freedom in such living. It is machinery pretending to be individuality. Meditation creates a gap between awareness and reaction. In this gap, intelligence is born. Then action becomes conscious rather than mechanical. The person begins responding instead of reacting, and this response carries tremendous beauty because it arises from presence rather than conditioning. Modern humanity has become deeply addicted to stimulation because people mistake intensity for aliveness. The nervous system becomes dependent upon constant excitement, constant entertainment, constant emotional drama. ordinary existence no longer feels enough. People need louder music, stronger experiences, endless novelty, endless movement. But, beloved ones, overstimulation numbs consciousness gradually. The soul becomes exhausted by continuous intensity. Meditation reverses this entire movement. Slowly, sensitivity returns. Then simple existence becomes beautiful again. Breathing consciously becomes enough. Watching rain becomes enough. Silence becomes nourishing instead of frightening. A quiet morning becomes sacred. Why? Because awareness itself brings richness to life. The ego seeks intensity because inwardly it feels empty. Awareness finds fulfillment in presence itself. And beloved ones, perhaps this is why awakened beings throughout history carried such calmness around them. It was not because they escaped life. It was because they stopped resisting life continuously. Humanity suffers not only because pain exists, but because people fight reality constantly. They resist emotions, resist change, resist uncertainty, resist impermanence. The ego seeks permanence in an impermanent universe, and naturally anxiety follows. But the conscious soul relaxes into life's movement. It understands that everything changes at the surface. Seasons change, bodies change, relationships change, thoughts change, yet awareness remains. This understanding creates deep trust, not blind belief, but existential trust born from direct experience. Soul consciousness also transforms love tremendously. The unconscious person loves through attachment because inwardly he feels incomplete. He seeks someone to remove loneliness, someone to provide identity, someone to protect him from emptiness. Therefore, ordinary love becomes filled with fear, control, jealousy, expectation. But the meditator begins discovering wholeness within himself. Then love changes from need into sharing. He no longer says unconsciously, "Complete me." Instead, love flows naturally from fullness. Such love liberates rather than imprisons, because it is not based upon psychological dependency. Beloved ones, perhaps one of the deepest transformations meditation brings is the dissolution of seriousness. Humanity has become terribly serious because ego depends upon importance continuously. People carry enormous psychological weight, defending identity, maintaining image, proving worth, comparing themselves endlessly. This creates heaviness, but awareness is light. The conscious soul begins seeing the cosmic playfulness hidden within existence. Thoughts become less heavy. Emotions become less dramatic. Even suffering is understood differently. Then laughter returns naturally, because now life is no longer experienced only through the burdened ego. And one day, beloved ones, through deep meditation, something extraordinary happens. The search itself begins disappearing. The restless movement toward becoming weakens. For perhaps the first time, you experience contentment without reason, not excitement, not temporary pleasure, something quieter, a silent sufficiency. You sit alone and nothing is missing. You walk beneath the sky and existence feels complete as it is. This is one of the signs that soul consciousness is awakening. Because the ego survives through incompletion, while awareness rests naturally in the present. Then meditation is no longer practice performed for certain hours. Meditation becomes fragrance of consciousness itself. You breathe meditatively. You speak meditatively. You walk meditatively. Even silence between words becomes alive. Then ordinary life becomes sacred, because awareness illuminates everything from within. Washing dishes becomes meditation. Watching the moon becomes meditation. Listening deeply becomes meditation. Love becomes meditation. Death itself becomes meditation, because now there is trust in the deeper consciousness beneath changing forms. Beloved ones, the conscious soul cannot be created because it was never absent. Only attention was absent. The sun remains hidden behind clouds, yet the sun never disappears. In the same way, awareness remains hidden behind thoughts, fear, conditioning, ambition, and identity. Meditation simply allows the clouds to pass naturally. Then slowly the sky reveals itself, vast, silent, open, unafraid, no longer imprisoned inside the restless surface mind, no longer seeking completion desperately through the world, no longer divided endlessly against itself. Then you begin understanding something profoundly beautiful. Peace was never going to come through controlling life. Peace comes through awakening within life, through remembering the silent consciousness already present beneath all movement. And in that remembrance, beloved ones, the soul flowers naturally, not as belief, not as ideology, but as living awareness itself, timeless, still, compassionate, free. Then for the first time, You are not merely surviving existence unconsciously, you are participating in it consciously, breathing with it, flowing with it, watching it with wonder, living not as fragmented personality alone, but as presence itself, a conscious soul awake within the mystery of existence. And in that awakening, beloved ones, there is immense peace. Not the peace of escape, not the peace of perfection, but the peace of wholeness. The peace of no longer being separate from yourself. The peace of finally returning home to the silent center that was waiting patiently within you from the very beginning.